The discovery. The signal that changed everything. Dr. Sarah Chen rubbed her tired eyes and stared at the quantum resonance detector for the 100th time that night. The Mars Research Station hummed quietly around her, its automated systems maintaining perfect environmental conditions while she worked alone in the quantum physics lab. Most of her colleagues had gone to sleep hours ago, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something important was hiding in the data. For 3 weeks, she had been tracking an unusual pattern in the quantum foam that filled empty space. Most scientists would have dismissed it as background noise, but Sarah had spent 15 years studying quantum consciousness theory. She knew the difference between random fluctuations and organized patterns. The pattern was definitely organized. More than that, it was desperate. Sarah leaned forward as her computer finished processing the latest data stream. The quantum signature was unlike anything in Earth's databases. It pulsed with a rhythm that reminded her of a heartbeat, but slower, weaker, as if it was fading away. "Computer, run Pattern Analysis Protocol 7, she commanded. The artificial intelligence responded immediately. Pattern analysis complete. The quantum signature contains embedded information structures consistent with organized consciousness patterns. Confidence level, 87%. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Organized consciousness patterns meant only one thing: intelligent life. But not just intelligent life. Intelligent life that was somehow encoding its thoughts directly into the quantum fabric of space itself. She activated her communication console and sent an urgent message to Director Elena Vasquez, head of Earth's Interplanetary Communications Division. The message was brief but explosive. Possible first contact situation. Need immediate consultation. 20 minutes later, Director Vasquez's face appeared on Sarah's screen. Even through the communication delay between Mars and Earth, Sarah could see the concern in the older woman's eyes. "Dr. Chen, your message mentioned first contact. Are you certain about this?" Vasquez asked. Sarah transmitted her data files. "The quantum signatures are definitely artificial, Director. But there's something else. The patterns are degrading rapidly. Whatever is sending this signal is dying." Vasquez studied the data for several minutes. When she looked up, her expression was grim. "Dr. Chen, I'm forwarding this immediately to the Global Defense Council. If this is genuine first contact, it's the most important discovery in human history. But if you're right about the degradation, then we might be witnessing the extinction of an alien species in real time." Sarah finished quietly. The military response. Captain Marcus Rivera stood at attention in the Global Defense Council chambers, surrounded by the most powerful people on Earth. Representatives from every major nation sat around the circular table, their faces tense as they reviewed Dr. Chen's data. Rivera had been called in because of his unique background. As commander of the Earth Defense Force's Deep Space Reconnaissance Unit, he had more experience with long-range space operations than anyone else in the military. His team had spent the last 5 years exploring the outer edges of the solar system, preparing for the day when humanity might encounter something unexpected. That day had apparently arrived. "Captain Rivera," said General Morrison, the American representative, "if we decide to investigate this signal, how quickly could you prepare a response mission?" Rivera had been studying the quantum data for the past 6 hours. "Sir, based on the signal's origin point, we're looking at a journey of approximately 3 months using our fastest ships. However, Dr. Chen's analysis suggests we might not have 3 months." The Chinese representative leaned forward. "Explain." "The quantum patterns are degrading at an accelerating rate," Rivera replied. "At current decay levels, the signal will be completely gone within 2 weeks. Whatever is out there is running out of time." The room fell silent. Everyone understood the implications. If humanity was going to help, they needed to act immediately. President Harrison of the North American Federation spoke first. "The question before us isn't whether we can help, but whether we should. We're talking about committing significant resources to aid an unknown alien species." "With respect, Madam President," Rivera said carefully, I believe the question is simpler than that. If someone is calling for help, don't we have a moral obligation to try? The Russian representative shook his head. Captain, your idealism is admirable, but we must consider Earth's security. What if this is a trap? Director Vasquez activated the main display, showing the quantum pattern analysis. Ladies and gentlemen, I've spent my entire career studying communication patterns. This isn't a trap. This is a death scream. Decoding the message. The breakthrough came 18 hours later. Dr. Chen had been working nonstop with a team of linguists, mathematicians, and computer scientists to decode the quantum signal. The key insight came from Dr. Kenji Nakamura, a specialist in consciousness studies. The signal isn't just carrying information, Nakamura explained to the assembled team. It's carrying actual consciousness fragments. Pieces of alien minds are literally embedded in the quantum structure. Sarah stared at the decoded data on her screen. That should be impossible. Consciousness can't exist independently of a physical brain. Apparently, it can for this species, Nakamura replied. They've somehow learned to encode their thoughts directly into quantum space. It's the most advanced technology I've ever encountered. As the translation algorithms worked, fragments of the alien message began to emerge. The first complete sentence made everyone in the room go silent. We are the Katherine. We are dying. The Devourers have found us. More fragments followed, painting a terrifying picture. The Katherine were an ancient species that had evolved beyond the need for physical bodies, existing as pure consciousness within quantum space. For millions of years, they had served as guardians of younger species, protecting them from cosmic threats. But now they were being hunted by something called the Devourers, entities that consumed consciousness itself, growing stronger with each mind they absorbed. The Katherine had been fighting a losing battle for centuries, and their numbers had dwindled to almost nothing. The final fragment of the message was the most chilling. We have observed the young species of Earth. Your consciousness burns bright with individual fire. You may be the only ones who can stop what is coming. Help us, and we will teach you to guard your thoughts. Ignore us, and the Devourers will find you next. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. They're not just asking for help. They're warning us that we're next on the list. Captain Rivera studied the tactical implications. If these Devourers consume consciousness, our entire species would be defenseless. We don't have any technology that could protect against that kind of attack. But the Katherine do. Director Vasquez pointed out. They're offering to teach us. If we can save them in time, Rivera added grimly. The decision. The Global Defense Council reconvened 6 hours later. Captain Rivera watched as world leaders debated the most important decision in human history. The argument had been raging for hours, with some representatives pushing for immediate action, while others counseled caution. We're talking about launching humanity's first interstellar mission based on the word of aliens we've never seen, argued the European Union representative. The risks are enormous. President Harrison stood up. The risks of doing nothing might be even greater. If these Devourers are real, and if they're coming for us next, then our choice is simple: help the Katherine now, or face the Devourers alone later. The Brazilian representative raised her hand. Captain Rivera, in your professional opinion, what would such a mission require? Rivera had been preparing for this question. We would need to retrofit our fastest ships with long-range life support and quantum communication arrays, a fleet of at least 12 vessels, carrying our best scientists, military personnel, and the equipment needed to sustain the Katherine consciousness fragments. How many people? Asked the Indian representative. Approximately 3,000, Rivera replied. Volunteers only, of course. This would be a one-way mission until we can establish a way back. The room fell silent again. 3,000 volunteers for a mission that might save humanity, or might lead to the loss of Earth's best and brightest in the depths of space. General Morrison spoke up. Captain, do you believe this mission can succeed? Rivera thought about the question for a long moment. Sir, I believe that humanity has always been at its best when we're helping others. Our entire history is filled with examples of people risking everything to save strangers. If we can save the Katherine, we prove that our compassion extends beyond our own species. If we can't, he paused, then at least we'll have tried. The vote was closer than anyone expected. 7 nations in favor, 5 against, with 3 abstentions. But it was enough. Motion carries, announced President Harrison. Captain Rivera, you have authorization to prepare the mission. God help us all. Preparation. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of activity. Shipyards across Earth worked around the clock to retrofit the fastest vessels in humanity's fleet. The ships were equipped with experimental quantum resonance chambers designed to sustain the Katherine consciousness fragments, assuming the rescue mission succeeded. Dr. Chen found herself appointed as the mission's chief scientist, working alongside Captain Rivera to plan every aspect of the operation. The quantum data continued to degrade, adding urgency to their preparations. The signal is now at 30% of original strength, Sarah reported during one of their daily briefings. We have maybe 4 days before we lose contact completely. Rivera nodded grimly. The fleet will be ready in 2 days. We'll have to launch before all systems are fully tested. Captain, Dr. Nakamura interrupted. There's something else you need to know. I've been analyzing the consciousness patterns in the Katherine signal. Their minds work differently than ours. They think collectively, sharing thoughts across vast distances. But humans, we think individually. Our consciousness is isolated, unique. Is that a problem? Rivera asked. Nakamura hesitated. I don't know. The Katherine message suggested that our individual fire might be important, but I can't figure out why. Sarah looked up from her data screens. Maybe that's something we'll only understand when we meet them. 2 days later, the rescue fleet launched from Earth orbit. 12 ships carrying humanity's hopes streaked toward the outer solar system, their quantum drives pushing them faster than any human vessel had ever traveled. As they reached the edge of the solar system, the last fragments of the Katherine signal finally faded into silence. Captain Rivera stood on the bridge of the lead ship, watching the stars ahead and wondering what they would find when they reached their destination. Behind them, Earth continued its rotation, unaware that its children were racing across the galaxy to save strangers they had never met. It was, Rivera reflected, a perfectly human thing to do. The hunt was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same. The hunt begins. Arrival at the quantum graveyard. 3 months after leaving Earth, the human rescue fleet dropped out of quantum drive in what Dr. Sarah Chen could only describe as a cosmic battlefield. The space around them was filled with the twisted remains of structures that defied human understanding. Crystalline formations the size of cities, now shattered and drifting in the void. Captain Marcus Rivera stood on the bridge of the flagship Defiant, studying the devastation through the main viewport. Admiral Jackson Torres, who had taken overall command of the fleet, joined him at the observation deck. "My God," Torres whispered, "what kind of weapons could do this?" Dr. Chen looked up from her quantum resonance scanner. "Admiral, I'm detecting faint consciousness fragments scattered throughout the debris field. The Katherine are still here, but barely. Their quantum signatures are incredibly weak." Rivera activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, deploy collection arrays. We need to gather every consciousness fragment we can find before they dissipate completely." The 12 human ships spread out across the debris field, their specially designed quantum collection systems working to capture the fading remnants of Katherine minds. It was delicate work. Too much interference, and the consciousness fragments would collapse entirely. "Got something," reported Dr. Nakamura from the science station. "It's weak, but I think we can stabilize it in the resonance chamber." The first Katherine consciousness fragment was successfully captured and transferred to the ship's quantum chamber. What happened next changed everything humanity thought they knew about intelligent life. The Katherine didn't speak in words. Instead, Concepts and emotions flowed directly into the minds of the humans in the chamber. Sarah gasped as alien thoughts touched her consciousness. Gratitude so profound it brought tears to her eyes, mixed with desperate warnings about something approaching from the dark spaces between stars. "The Devourers come," the Katherine consciousness communicated. "You should not have come. They will sense your bright minds and hunger for them." Admiral Torres leaned forward. "How long do we have?" Images flashed through their minds. Vast, shadow-like entities that existed partially outside normal space, feeding on consciousness itself. They had been hunting the Katherine for eons, growing stronger with each mind consumed. "They felt your arrival," the Katherine continued. "Hours, perhaps less. You must flee while you can." Captain Rivera stood up. "We didn't come here to flee. We came to help. How do we fight them?" The Katherine consciousness pulsed with something that might have been laughter. "Fight. Young species, the Devourers have consumed civilizations that span galaxies. They are older than your sun, more numerous than your stars. You cannot fight them." "Watch us," Rivera said quietly. First contact with the enemy. The Devourers arrived like a shadow falling across reality itself. Human sensors couldn't detect them directly. They existed partially outside normal space, appearing as distortions in the fabric of the universe. But their effect on the quantum field was unmistakable. Dr. Chen watched her instruments in fascination and horror. "Admiral, they're not just moving through space. They're bending it, creating pockets of unreality around themselves." The first Devourer materialized near the human fleet, a writhing mass of darkness shot through with veins of sickly light. It was enormous, easily the size of one of Earth's largest cities, and it radiated a hunger that made every human in the fleet feel sick. "All ships, battle stations," Admiral Torres commanded. "Weapons free." The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, nuclear missiles, and exotic particle beams all struck the Devourer simultaneously. The entity barely seemed to notice. Instead, it reached out with tendrils of shadow that passed through the ship's hulls, as if they weren't there. Crew members began collapsing on several ships, their life signs failing as something essential was drained from them. "It's feeding on their consciousness," Dr. Nakamura reported, his voice tight with panic. "The shields are useless against it." That's when Sarah Chen made a discovery that would change the course of the battle. "Wait," she called out, studying her quantum scanner. "Look at this. When the Devourer touches human minds, something's happening that didn't happen with the Katherine." On her screen, she showed the quantum signature of a human mind under attack. Instead of simply being consumed, the human consciousness was fighting back, creating interference patterns in the quantum field. "Our minds are different," she realized. "The Katherine think collectively. Their consciousness flows together naturally. But humans think individually. Our minds are like quantum fortresses, self-contained and resistant to absorption." Captain Rivera understood immediately. "That's why the Katherine call us bright minds with individual fire. We're not just different from them. We're the opposite of what the Devourers are used to consuming." The Katherine consciousness in their resonance chamber pulsed with sudden excitement. "Yes, this is why we called to you. Your minds burn with isolated flame. The Devourers cannot simply absorb you as they do others." Admiral Torres activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, concentrate fire on the entity's core. If our minds can resist it, maybe our weapons can hurt it." The battle that changed everything. The second phase of the battle began with humanity fighting like they had never fought before. Instead of trying to avoid the Devourers' consciousness-draining attacks, they flew directly into them, using their mental resistance to get close enough for their weapons to be effective. Captain Rivera led the attack in a small fighter squadron, diving directly toward the Devourer's core, while its shadow tendrils tried to drain his mind. He felt the alien hunger pressing against his thoughts, trying to tear away his memories and personality. But his consciousness held firm, protected by the very individualism that made humans unique. "This is Rivera to all fighters," he transmitted. "The closer we get, the more our weapons hurt it. Follow me in." The human pilots followed their captain's lead, pressing through waves of mental assault to deliver their attacks at point-blank range. For the first time, the Devourer showed signs of actual damage. Its shadow form flickered and writhed as human weapons tore into its core. But the victory was short-lived. More Devourers began materializing around the fleet. Dozens of them, then hundreds. The quantum distortions they created turned space itself into a nightmare landscape of twisted reality. "Admiral," Dr. Chen called out, "I'm reading massive quantum fluctuations throughout the system. I think they're calling reinforcements from somewhere else." That's when the Katherine consciousness shared the most shocking revelation of all. Through the quantum link, images flooded into human minds, visions of a vast cosmic structure hidden in the spaces between galaxies. An ancient construct built by a species called the quantum architects, designed to contain something that threatened all consciousness in the universe. The Devourers were imprisoned eons ago, the Katherine communicated. But the prison is failing. They escape slowly, feeding and growing stronger. Soon, they will break free entirely and consume all thinking beings in the galaxy. Dr. Nakamura stared at the images in his mind. How many are there? The answer came as a wave of terrifying numbers. Millions of Devourers, contained within quantum barriers that weakened with each passing century. If they broke free completely, no species in the galaxy would survive. But there is hope, the Katherine continued. The quantum architects left instructions, hidden within the quantum structure of reality itself. A way to strengthen the prison, but it requires consciousness of a type we have never possessed. Sarah Chen understood immediately. Individual consciousness, human-type consciousness. That's why you called us. We're not just resistant to the Devourers. We're the key to stopping them permanently. The discovery that shattered everything. Admiral Torres made the decision that would echo across the galaxy. All ships withdraw to minimum safe distance. Dr. Chen, can you access these quantum architect instructions? Sarah worked frantically with her equipment, using the Katherine consciousness as a guide to tap into the quantum information embedded in space itself. What she found was a set of instructions so complex and dangerous that it made her hands shake. "Admiral, the quantum architects designed a resonance cascade that can strengthen the cosmic prison. But it requires human consciousness to activate it. Not just one human, thousands of us, all linked together while maintaining our individual identity." "And the cost?" Torres asked, though he already knew the answer wouldn't be good. "The humans who activate it will have their consciousness permanently fused with the prison structure. They'll become part of the barrier containing the Devourers, aware but unable to return to normal life." The bridge fell silent. Torres looked around at his crew, brave men and women who had volunteered for a mission to save strangers, and now faced the ultimate sacrifice to save the entire galaxy. Captain Rivera stepped forward. "Admiral, request permission to volunteer for the Resonance Cascade." "Denied," Torres replied immediately. "I won't order anyone to make that sacrifice." "You're not ordering, sir. I'm volunteering, and I won't be alone." Rivera activated the ship's communication system. "Attention all hands. You've heard what Dr. Chen discovered. The choice before us is simple. Sacrifice some of us to save everyone, or watch the galaxy burn. I'm going to be part of the Resonance Cascade. Anyone who wants to join me, report to the quantum chambers." What happened next became legend among human colonies for generations to come. Of the 3,000 humans in the rescue fleet, over 2,000 stepped forward to volunteer. They came from every ship, every nation, every walk of life. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, and doctors, all united by the simple human belief that some things are worth dying for. Dr. Chen worked through tears to configure the quantum resonance chambers. Each volunteer would have their consciousness linked to the cosmic prison, becoming eternal guardians against the Devourer threat. They would be aware, but forever separated from their bodies, their loved ones, their normal lives. The Katherine consciousness observed the human volunteers with something approaching reverence. In all our eons of existence, we have never encountered courage like this. You barely know us, yet you sacrifice yourselves for all life in the galaxy. That's what humans do, Captain Rivera replied simply. We help. The Resonance Cascade. The activation of the Quantum Architect Protocol sent shockwaves through space and time itself. 2,000 human volunteers linked their consciousness to the cosmic prison, their individual minds becoming part of a vast network that strengthened the barriers containing the Devourers. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The hundreds of Devourers that had been materializing around the fleet suddenly found themselves being pulled back into their prison. Their shadow forms stretched and twisted as the reinforced quantum barriers dragged them away from normal space. But the most shocking discovery came when Dr. Chen analyzed the quantum signatures of the volunteers. "Admiral," she called out in amazement, "they're still individual. Even linked to the prison structure, each human consciousness maintains its separate identity. The quantum architects designed this system specifically for minds like ours. The Katherine consciousness pulsed with joy and wonder. The ancient ones knew. Somehow, they foresaw that a species like yours would eventually evolve. The prison was always meant for human minds." Admiral Torres watched as the last of the Devourers was pulled back into the cosmic prison. The volunteers were gone in body, but not in spirit. Their consciousness now formed an eternal guard against the galaxy's greatest threat. "What happens now?" he asked. The answer came from Captain Rivera himself, his voice reaching them through the quantum link. "Now we watch. We guard. And if the Devourers ever try to break free again, they'll find 2,000 humans waiting for them." The remaining human fleet began the long journey home, carrying with them the surviving Katherine consciousness fragments and the knowledge of what had been accomplished. Earth would learn that its children had not only made first contact with alien life, but had saved the entire galaxy in the process. The rescue mission had become something far greater. The moment when humanity proved that their greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons, but their willingness to sacrifice everything for others, even strangers they had never met. As the ships passed the edge of the solar system 3 months later, they were met by a massive welcoming fleet from Earth. But Admiral Torres knew that the real heroes of this mission would never come home. They had found a different kind of home, one where they would stand guard against the darkness between the stars for all eternity. The galaxy was safe, and the universe had learned something new about the strange, impossible, wonderful species from the small blue planet called Earth. They had answered a desperate call for help from strangers, and in doing so, had revealed that some things, like compassion, courage, and the willingness to sacrifice for others, truly were universal. The human volunteers still maintained their watch, their consciousness spread across the cosmic prison that contained the Devourers. And sometimes, on quiet nights, those sensitive to quantum fluctuations claimed they could hear them. 2,000 human voices singing together in the space between stars, keeping the galaxy safe through their eternal vigil. Humanity had answered the silent scream of a dying species, and what followed had indeed shattered the galaxy, not through destruction, but through an act of love so profound that it changed the fundamental nature of life itself.